There's news, there's sense, and there's nuisance.
And thank God there is Manisha Pande.
Watching news so you don't have to.
Newslaundry, Manisha Pande, you guys are on the payrolls of George Soros.
Look, if you're going on television news and saying that Muslims are spitting into your food and be careful of who's serving your food, then I have the right to question you to the public.
Why do you so seriously say you're not a content creator? I mean, if you're doing satire, isn't it content at the end of the day?
People are not going to watch you just because you have a mic.
I have a small little DJI mic. I don't have that.
If you want to be taken seriously, you need that big podcast mic.
Of course, we take strong objection to the fact that there are others who distribute certificates of patriotism, who distribute certificates of nationalism. And there are several in journalism, in mainstream, who would say that what gives Manisha Pande a right to distribute certificates of good and bad journalism to us? I don't agree with a whole lot of stories that Caravan does. I almost feel like they're doing a hit job on a lot of stories.
What mindset do you have to come from to...
How are the owners and proprietors allowing it is also, I think, the big Karare Chennai.
Nuisance fans will know this. This is like...
मैं तो आती हूँ शो पे मुझे तो कभी नहीं
खिलाया करारे चने. Joke on an anchor who sells news like करारे चने.
Oh. अच्छा,
you all know who it is.
Your critique would largely focus on the so-called anchors, the divas in the right-wing ecosystem.
In terms of consumption pattern, I feel that television still holds a lot of importance because suppose there's an earthquake or there's an air crash, their first instinct will be to turn on the television.
But give us a sense of how does Newsance really work and give us some behind-the-scenes secrets of how Newsance really shapes up.
So like I said, 1 hour we can predict. So हमको पता होता है कि आज देखो.
Who's the one editor, anchor, Manisha, you want to really give like one whack to, like one thappad if you could? Hello and a warm welcome to yet another episode of the POV podcast. I'm Smita Sharma and we are bringing some of the finest women voices as far as the series is concerned to talk about their personal journeys, the expertise, the breaking of the glass ceilings, policy issues and all that. I hope you have watched the past episodes with Yamini Iyer and Priyanka Chaturvedi. If you like the content, do share, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon notification. And today I'm joined by a very special guest, somebody whom I have a deep admiration for.
There's news, there's sense, and there's nuisance.
And thank God there is Manisha Pande.
Watching news so you don't have to.
That's such a relief, Manisha.
Yes.
I mean, how are you?
As somebody from television news, do you think I do a decent job?
Oh my God, you do a fabulous job and I have no idea because that's really going to be like one of my key questions. And viewers, of course, you know about Manisha Pande. Most of you have seen her, you love her. She's been with Newslaundry since 2014.
2014, yeah.
It's I mean, since basically the birth of the organization, but before that she was with...
Newslaundry was born in 2012 and I came in 2014. I keep joking here that I gave you as much of my time as Modi gave to the nation.
My God.
So जितना मोदी जी ने दुनिया के लिए देश के लिए किया है उतना ही मैंने Newslaundry के लिए किया है.
Manisha ji, wow. So before Newslaundry, of course, Manisha was with Business Standard, with DNA. The initial days of your career, were you reporting? What were you doing?
I was with Business Standard. I had joined... 1 second. नीचे रख देती हूँ.
हाय फोन ही फेंक दिया. बताएं ये है commitment to the podcast. सीखो कुछ लोगों. Yeah.
So I was with Business Standard. I started my journey in journalism on the desk. I was on the edit page. So reporting was something that I was keen on doing, but desk would take up all my time. So reporting and writing was something I would do in my free time. Because obviously when you become a journalist, the कीड़ा इसकी byline आए. तो वो हमेशा से था, but my formative years were in editing on the desk and I'm very thankful for that. Because that really trains you into understanding what the craft of journalism is, the economy of words, the importance of fairness, the importance of reaching all sides. So those things you very carefully learn while you're on the desk because you're supposed to be checking all of that before something goes to print.
And what were you reporting on back in the day?
So back then I started off as features. So I would do books, I would cover culture, I would do plays, a lot of book reviews actually. And then, because it was Business Standard, so we would do like a lot of reporting, the feature reporting would be about some company doing some good corporate welfare kind of thing. So those kind of things I would report on. And then when I joined DNA, I would cover politics. So, but again, from a more writerly, feature-ish perspective. So, I was with the Saturday magazine there.
But you didn't really do a television news
No.
stint.
Which is why I was asking you that, do you think I do a decent job? Because I've actually never worked in TV. So, I do get that somebody who's been in television would look at my own critique of TV news a little more critically. Because you know the insides, you know how things work. So, I'm always very, very kind of careful about that fact. I've never worked in TV, no.
How do you describe yourself? You describe yourself today as a content creator, an influencer, a journalist. How do you describe yourself?
No, I'm a journalist. Though I don't look at myself as a content creator at all. In fact, I think sometimes when people want to they're not happy with the critique that I put out, to dismiss you, they'll be like, oh, that YouTuber. But I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a content creator. I am a journalist. I am the editor at Newslaundry. So I lead all our reportage here. I look at everything that we put out. Newsance is just one aspect of what we do, which is satire, critique, commentary. We do a lot of original reportage on Newslaundry, which I lead. So I consider myself a journalist. But yes, at Newslaundry, and this is one reason why I joined the platform, there was always this understanding that you don't take yourself too seriously. There was also this need to have Newslaundry in 2012 because the media seemed to be above questioning. The media could question politicians, bureaucrats, sports people, film stars, but it was very averse to being questioned itself. And I think back then only the Hoot was doing this. Hoot was another news platform by Sevanti Nayan, and she would regularly report, critique on the media. But it was more academic. Newslaundry's approach was slightly more fun, using satire, making sure that we don't take ourselves seriously, but we push the idea that news people are also accountable to the public. Why
do you so seriously say you're not a content creator? I mean, if you're doing satire, isn't it content at the end of the day?
No, but I think we are using the tools of journalism. So for content creator, I think your allegiance is to being worthy of being consumed online. I think that's your prime goal when you're a content creator, right? You're looking at a piece of content, and whether that could be information, that could be entertainment, that could be a meme, that could be whatever, but you're tailoring it for your platform to get maximum views. That's your essential goal. Journalism, our goal is not, I'm not necessarily thinking that I need to go viral or that I need to, take some information and tailor it because I have to put a piece of content out there. I'm looking at it more from a journalistic point of view, but I'm using different means and tools to do it. So I can use satire, I can use skits that we do a lot of times, like, dramatic retelling of things. We also do straight reporting. So in that sense, I think my allegiance lies to the idea of journalism, what it should be, why it should serve public interest, and the tools of journalism that even while we are cracking a joke, you cannot go wrong on your facts. You cannot be unfair. You cannot misrepresent something that's out there. A lot of people today critique media, and often I see the clips actually don't tell the full story. But they are not obliged to be fair because they're out there memifying what's happening on television news. I would distinguish what we do at Newslaundry from that our allegiance lies to factual retelling, even if it is making fun of something.
You said a lot of things, and I'm going to unpack it slowly and circle back to a couple of things about media, journalism, responsibility, filtering, truth, all of it, But let me also ask you, I mean, you said that a lot of people tend to introduce you as a YouTuber today, and it's a thing that we face, a lot of us
dismiss you.
Who have moved from mainstream media to our independent space, we are called as YouTubers. Why should we object to it?
We shouldn't. So I would say it doesn't bother me. Like if somebody calls me a YouTuber, theek, that's where our distribution platform is now YouTube, right? We don't have a television news. We don't have a newspaper printing. We have YouTube channel that is broadcasting most of our stuff. But again, like I said, a YouTuber's allegiance is not necessarily to what journalism is supposed to achieve, right? Like you as a journalist, when you interview someone, you're not going to be paid for it, right? You're not going to, and if you do, then you're going to put a full disclaimer out there saying that this is an interview that I'm doing. It's part of a collaboration with such and such ministry or such and such embassy or whatever. Now, a lot of YouTubers do this, right? They get paid for the interviews that they do from often the person they're interviewing, which to my mind, a journalist would never do.
True.
A YouTuber can do it. A journalist will have certain rules by which we go, which is that A, full disclosure, B, There can't be a monetary transaction between someone you're questioning, you're holding to account. So those are some traditional, things that our medium may be YouTube, where we at Newslaundry, we experiment with reels, we experiment with memes, we use all sorts of mediums out there available to us to reach to a newer audience. But what we do is still rooted in journalism. I'm not gonna tomorrow, misrepresent somebody saying something just because I want to be funny. Or just because I want to seem to, or just because I think it can go viral. I will not use certain language against certain anchors, irrespective of what they do, because I know that within journalistic boundaries, this is not the sort of language that I can use. I can push the boundaries to this line, but beyond that, a content creator can do, I can't do it. A YouTuber can do, I can't do it. Similarly, I think the biggest thing with YouTubers, and we've seen a lot of critique of interviews also, like when Raj Shamani met Vijay Mallya, or even when, say, Nikhil Kamath meets Prime Minister.
Or Elon Musk.
Now, they don't necessarily have to ask the hard questions. They're doing it for their platform.
They don't ask at all.
They don't. But what I'm saying is, it's not incumbent on them to do it.
True.
Right. Ideally, I think full disclosure to hona chahiye. If Vijay Mallya is paying Raj Shamani, if that is the case, then you should have a disclaimer, because that I think your audience should know.
I have no idea. Was that a paid one?
No. I don't know. But there was a lot of thing around the fact that Raj Shamani, these interviews mostly, a lot of
we'll
it
need some fact checking though. But
I can't for sure say that it was paid or not. But for example, when Beer Biceps had started interviewing all these cabinet ministers, there was a little line in it that it's in collaboration with. What that collaboration meant, we don't know. Whether it mean that they pay for his ticket, his stay in Delhi, what, we don't know. We actually did a story on that also. But the fact that this is happening as a PR exercise, right? Now a YouTuber, it's not incumbent upon them to clarify all these things or even feel ethically bound by these notions. A journalist would be.
Honestly, I woke up to, his conversation suddenly when I saw Jai Shankar, Smriti Irani, everybody coming on those shows. But tell me something, Manisha.
So just to add this, like if someone calls you a YouTuber, I think you're using YouTube as a medium. But a lot of what you do is journalistic, right? You're bound by journalistic norms.
Yeah. My profession, and of course, I take pride in it, we remain journalists. And we remain committed to old school journalism. Of course, the storytelling formats need to change.
Yeah.
Did you always have funny bones in you? Did you always have an inclination for satire, or is something that developed over a period of time?
No. I did theatre when I was in college.
Okay.
So I always had a theatrical background. Because I like drama and I loved theatre. I think I would have joined NSD had I not done mass communication.
Oh,
but
NSD ka loss.
NSD ka loss, but I was a big practitioner of theatre, and a lot of my friends actually went to Bombay and became actors and whatever.
Oh.
So that was there. Satire, no, I never had that. At least I think I never thought I was funny or I had, satire in me. But Abhinandan and Madhu had this show called Clothesline, right? That was the OG Newsance in that sense, which would make fun of TV news from 2012 onwards. So we didn't just begin doing it in 2014. And I think that was very much Newslaundry style of being funny, irreverent, not taking yourself too seriously, and also, making fun of the other person and unka bhi thoda like niche aa jao types. So I think that was an early influence, because that was what Newslaundry was all about, was fun and irreverent. And then I think I didn't have to really do satire, because a lot of what I do, and I say this very often, that I am not being funny, I'm just pointing at ridiculousness. So the satire is writing itself. I don't have to make a joke. The anchor is saying, Karachi, chale gaye, humne wo dekhe, humne. तो उसमें मुझे बस दिखाना है कि ये हुआ, and it's funny. I don't have to do anything to make it funny. So I think
in an alternate life, if you actually had landed up, say, in the theatrical world or the acting world, is there a particular role you would have loved doing? As an actress? Yeah.
No, I've never really thought of that. But I mean,
I'm just giving a hint and a clue if in case some directors.
One of the plays I did was written by Piyush Mishra. It was called Ye Shehar Hamara Sota Hai. Jab Shehar Hamara Sota Hai. And actually, a lot of the Gulal songs are from this play of his. So Jab Shehar Hamara Sota Hai, the Gulal song, I think it was in Gulal, right?
I think
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It was actually a play he had written. I think he was in NSD when he wrote it. So this was one musical that we had done back in Chandigarh. It was a West Side Story ka Hindi version.
Oh.
So that was a role that I really enjoyed. I was one of the women characters in it. But no, I don't really, now I don't think of acting and all that at all. Like that was really college ke time ka keeda. And it was so consuming actually, and I understand when actors kind of, they are the way they are, because it is a profession that really consumes you.
True.
And even at my level in college, just doing street plays and stage plays, I mean, we weren't like big actors or whatever, but you were so obsessed for those 3-4 months with what you were doing on stage, and there was such a high that every time a play got over, you would just completely go in a low.
Right.
So that really scared me. In college only, I was smart enough to understand that this high and low is very like, it leaves you very empty, and that kind of made me feel like, no, maybe I want to do something else. I don't want to be so obsessed with something.
Yeah, that spotlight can really be sort of.
And I understand why actors, what it is like for them, that low when a movie doesn't do well, or that low even when that character's over. Like now you move on to another character. It takes something out of you. So that's.
I mean, of course, with you, you have your own different base of fans and audience. But coming back to this question, you were talking about that clothesline show, and when you came in and you started doing Newsance.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of us, as liberals, of course, we take strong objection to the fact that there are others who distribute certificates of patriotism, who distribute certificates of nationalism. And there are several in journalism, in mainstream, who would say that what gives Manisha Pande a right to distribute certificates of good and bad journalism to us? What would you say to them?
So, I'm not distributing certificates, and I think journalists should understand this very well and very clearly, and we understood this back in 2014. In fact, when I started off in Newslaundry, I was a reporter, right? So I used to report a lot on the media, and back then editors would have the same. So if something has happened, we would obviously reach out to the editor that has this happened, or not firings, layoffs, mergers, and many editors who today really tell me that you're doing an amazing job would tell me like, what gives you the right to ask us? Why should we tell you what's happening in our newsroom? And I think there was this sense that why should you question us? And that remains today for a lot of people. Look, if you're going on television news and you are making up stories about Thuk Jihad and saying that Muslims are spitting into your food and be careful who's serving your food, then I have the right to question you. I'm not distributing a certificate. I'm critiquing what you're doing, and you have every right to critique me back. So there's no certification being awarded by us or whatever. It's critique. It's healthy in a democracy. I should critique you, you should critique me, and today our audiences are doing that to us. Before even these anchors say anything to me, I have my own audience that checks me many times. Or would say that, hey, you got this wrong, or hey, why do you think you did this here and not that here? Why didn't you call this person out, and why did you look at it in a certain way, which keeps me in check, and I think it's very useful. So anchors should also understand it's no longer me giving certification. Your own audience is judging you every day for the editorial choices you make, for the stories you choose to completely ignore, for stuff that you're playing up nightly, whether it's Love Jihad, Hindu Muslim, Jai Modi or whatever. So you're being judged constantly. And you should worry about that. And I think Newsance is just an endeavor in, maybe we can come to that later, why like the show came.
I'm going to ask a couple of questions because I've also had a lot of interest shown by other people that I was talking to that, please ask some behind the scene questions about Newsance. But staying on with this one, I mean, Newslaundry is a part of the left cabal, is the popular saying. And people would perhaps ask that, of course, it's a fact today that at least since the time that you have been doing the show, and since 2014, we see the right-wing ecosystem operating across television newsrooms, barring 1 or 2 newsrooms or 1 or 2 anchors, really. That your critique would largely focus on the so-called anchors, the divas in the right-wing ecosystem. There are a lot of the left-wing ecosystem voices, perhaps, who may not be operating on TV, but may be operating out of YouTube today, independent space today. There are people who stand up every morning at 6 a.m. or 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and say, "Aaj to Modi ki sarkar ja rahi hai. Aaj to Amit Shah ki sarkar ja rahi hai."
Are you talking about 2 p.m.?
So, I don't know.
Because I have done a show on 2 p.m. Just want to say that.
Is there a 2 p.m.? I thought there was a 4 p.m.
Sorry, 4 p.m.
Okay, I don't know. There are a couple of people that I've heard and all. So, do you think that you do enough focus on people from anchors, from journalists, from all ideological spectrums?
So, one, we have, like I said, there's this 4 p.m. This reminded me because there is actually this channel called 4 p.m. where there's an astrologer who comes and every day वो मोदी की सरकार गिरा रहा होता है और every day अमित शाह जी को कुछ होने वाला है, कुछ बहुत बुरा वक्त शुरू होने वाला है. So we actually really made fun of him because he did this long interview with Kejriwal, which was like as bad as what you see with Modi during the elections. So we did a nice show calling this out कि भाई ये क्या है. Now coming to is my critique on Newsance focused more on the right-wing ecosystem because that is what you see on television. There is not a left-wing ecosystem on television news anymore. even there may be a center and there's right and there's extreme right. I don't think anyone's left anymore on TV. Maximum you'll get is at the center. And what critique can I do of somebody at the center? Like they'll do the false equivalence, they'll do the balancing, but they'll do it.
The apples and oranges.
They'll at least put the two facts out there. At the same time, when you have anchors saying lock these students up in jail, why are they outside? You know, put these are anti-national vermins, they're dimak. You're using such language for minorities, for students, for dissenting voices. Naturally, that takes up more of my time on Newsance.
Somebody's used dimak also?
Of course.
Oh my God.
Of course. So like I said, and you know, so Newslaundry from 2012, Sagrika, I mean, Madhu's show if you watch, it has taken pot shots at Barkhadat, at Rajdeep, at Sagrika, all the left cabal, quote unquote. I don't think they were left ever, but whatever, people who were not, you know, decidedly pro-Modi or were seen to be close to Congress.
Yeah.
She critiqued them until that 2014, the right wing loved Newslaundry because wow, we were taking on their people that they didn't like. So, I can't go on talking about like Ravish who's not even on the TV anymore. Like, what do you want me to do?
But I do think Modi ji still talks about Nehru ji. You can't talk about anchors before 2014. What are you doing, yaar?
So, show ka naam TV Newsance hai, so naturally it kind of focuses on what's happening on television today. And I think on television there is no left cabal at all that I need to call out. It's mostly extreme right or right wing or real chatukarita. Secondly, when Newsance started in 2017, we had always critiqued media, but I think something decidedly shifted in 2016 with the JNU sedition case. That is where we felt that what was happening on TV can no longer be critiqued. You have to respond to this in their own language and we have to reach out to more people through video. Because it was no longer about how great Modi is. It was actively hounding people, actively going after students or activists or protesters and calling for persecution. And in many cases, after TV News' hysteria, the person would find themselves in a police case. That's happened with Sudha Bhardwaj, that's happened with Umar Khalid, that's happened in Shaheen Bagh. Many cases we were seeing that TV News was now no longer just a propaganda tool, which is not that unusual, right?
Like yeah, that's happened since the day of the public broadcasters
now
itself.
It was actively anti-people. It could upturn a person's life. And I remember this one story that Rahul Shivshankar in Times Now had done, where they ran with this fake WhatsApp forward that there's conversion happening in Kerala and there's a rate card. Okay, Brahmin girl will be converted for X number of money. It's a fake WhatsApp thing which was all over social media, and he did a show on that. And then he accused a tuition center in Kerala of harboring Muslim extremists or whatever. And we've done a story on this, so at least you can show that also to your audience. But it was a complete false story. We spoke to the police that said there's nothing like that. The guy who's running the tuition center was so confused because we reached out to him and he's like, ma'am, why are they doing this? They didn't call me, they didn't ask me. They're saying, you see, we have Hindu teachers, we have Hindu students, we are not Islamic terrorists, we're not promoting any. And he was shocked at what was happening, but it was so easy for you to do a show and destroy someone's life and reputation. And increasingly that's happened with television news.
Yeah, no accountability.
Imagine what that does to a person. Suddenly you're seeing in Operation Sindoor, where a teacher died in Poonch. And again, this was again Rahul Shivshankar, he flashed it as a terrorist has been shot dead or has been killed. This guy had died in India because of Pakistani shelling, and his family is like, he's an Indian and he's died because of Pakistani shelling, and you're calling him a terrorist. Not only have you lost your kin, but you're also switch on the TV and see कि उसको आतंकवादी बुला रहे हैं. So this brazenness with which television news now can destroy lives, reputations. Ria's case was so famous, but I'm saying she can at least fight back. What about these people, students, Muslims, people who are at the margins? And that has really been something that has been my focus quite a bit. And that's why Newsance was also born, that it wasn't just, praising a party. I think it's the least. If somebody is just praising the party, I think they're the least problematic people right now on television news. Because you have people actively sparking riots, wanting to at least. You have people maligning reputations of the weakest people and just get away with zero accountability. And I think that is the beast of what we're dealing with. So this whole left ko bhi criticize karo, right ko bhi, it doesn't sit well with me because this is not political anymore.
And you know,
you're destroying lives.
It's a thing of the past that journalism has to be neutral. No, you cannot be neutral in the face of very visible injustice. If you know very well that there is injustice that is happening and there is one party which is clearly the victim, you cannot be neutral. You can be objective in the way you cover that story. You don't have to scream, shout, make a circus out of it. But no, neutrality cannot be, in fact, the way forward on that story.
And if you're going to actively demonize someone like this to the point where they can lose their livelihood, they could have a case against them, then boss, this is something now very scary. It's beyond even propaganda journalism. And that is where we are, which is a very, very scary place to be in. I think even supporters of the current government recognize that in television news. And I think that has been a huge victory for us at Newslaundry, but also I think it's a general, shows the good sense in most people. I think CSDS did this whole survey where they found that even BJP supporters felt that the news was too favorable towards Modi. When I was traveling during elections, this election especially, I met a lot of people who support the BJP. Women also, like one woman in Varanasi I met. She said कि हाँ हम भी support करते हैं, लेकिन सब कुछ अच्छा हो रहा है ऐसा तो आप नहीं बोल सकते हो. तो न्यूज़ को दिखाना चाहिए जहाँ सरकार गलत जा रही है. So even supporters feel that. कि यार हमको दिख रहा है ना हमारे घर में.
CSDS is now after those kind of surveys. I mean, and one mistake in exit reports,
for which the person
miscalculation,
apologized.
Yeah, and now I was just reading a report this morning that, you know, the kind of stuff that has happened to them. But come on, Newslaundry, Manisha Pande, you guys are on the payrolls of George Soros.
George Soros.
You're a Soros agent.
Billionaire.
Accept, confess, the nation needs to know today.
दे देता तो फिर हम इतना pay to keep news free, please subscribe ये नहीं कर रहे होते. We would have just, no, and I'm sorry, but...
Have you ever interacted with Soros anywhere?
No, now it's his son, na? It's his son who's like the guy who's pulling the strings. But no, I've never interacted with him.
Do you get asked this question often when you go out on the street? Madam, Soros ne paisa diya aapko.
You know, I think I'll jinx this someday, but I must tell you, Smita, that every time I go out, I only meet well-wishers. I should actually not jinx this. But I actually don't meet people who don't like my work. It's very strange. Maybe it also means that online is a different world.
Yeah.
That even if people don't like me, maybe they're not so committed to like come and heckle me or harass me.
The anchors must love you though. Do you go to these social parties? Do you feel that vibe that people really love you?
You think anyway? So I must tell you, this anchors may not, of course, I mean, I'll never like bump into them. We don't party in the same circles. But I meet a lot of reporters and producers even of some of the shows, and they say very good. Ma'am, बहुत मजा आया. अच्छा किया.
उनको खुश होती होगी ना, because the reporters are made to stand on windows. Their reports are not even carried in news anymore.
और वो कुछ नहीं कह सकते ना. मतलब what can they do?
It's a sadistic pleasure.
So they are like very good. अच्छा करा. Producers of shows also.
They, I'm sure.
कि very good. आपका show देख के मजा आता है.
Those guys are the saddest people, you know, not even on camera and going in through that newsroom stress where everybody is shouting, screaming and all kinds of duffergiri is happening.
When you would have joined TV News, your newsroom mentors, your leaders, you would have wanted to learn from them. You would have, you know, just imagine today what a rookie must feel like in a television news space where your boss is doing thug jihad, love jihad. How does a young reporter cope with that?
But you know, the newsrooms have also changed. I mean, when that episode happened of that Major Gogoi taking in a human shield on a jeep, I remember the newsroom that I was in, and that was kind of my last stint with a full-time Indian television sort of a stint. People applauded.
Cheering, clapping.
The newsroom broke into applause.
Some of these conclaves, when I watched them, I think recently Rekha Gupta's conclave, or I was HT and NDTV's conclave, where she was just saying nonsense and people were clapping.
AQI is the temperature.
And look, taliyan baja rahe. I'm like, kya? What is
there
this?
There are people, gifts that keep giving, and then you know they keep giving because these are the people who are celebrating that.
And certain channels, I feel that they actually now don't hire journalism students. They hire people who can create nuisance value.
Is TV news really dead in that traditional sort of sense, do you think? That the influencers, the rabble-rousers, the content creators have taken over, and there is really sort of no value, no premium for hardcore news, for hardcore investigation, that it's far and few now. So in the traditional sense, has Indian television news died?
I feel if the main purpose is public interest, then it's dead long ago. But in terms of consumption pattern, I feel that television still holds a lot of importance, because suppose there's an earthquake or there's an air crash or there's Russia-Ukraine war or Operation Sindoor, for example, people will, their first instinct will be to turn on the television, because there is still the expectation that you will get correct news and the fastest way possible. That really changed with Operation Sindoor. I do believe that even in my 10 years of being with Newslaundry, I have never, friends who don't really consume news and don't care much, I have never had them reach out to me with such frequency as in those 3 days, because people were genuinely confused when they turned on the television. People were actually like, क्या हो रहा है? समझ नहीं आ रहा, ये correct है नहीं है, मतलब I think that was like really the death knell, because the disgust that a lot of people felt with TV news, and also a lot of lives. I mean, war is a scary prospect for everyone, right? It's people in Chandigarh, people in Jammu, in Punjab, they were genuinely worried about what's going to happen, right? And you turn on the TV and you couldn't tell क्या हो रहा है. क्या हमने असली में वॉर शुरू कर दिया, क्या असली में हम कराची चले गए हैं, क्या असली में वो, and that kind of mayhem that was spread over 3 days, I think that kind of really cemented this notion that you're not going to get truth out of television news, and I think that has posed a lot of problems. One, I routinely now meet people who say कि समझ नहीं आता न्यूज़ कहाँ से लें, sources बड़ा confusing हो गया है.
Basically, with a TV station, it's easy. You can just keep changing the remote.
Yeah.
On YouTube, you have to really make that effort of finding somebody that you can trust.
So people are looking for that. I think that opens up great opportunities for journalists like us who have moved on to a newer medium, because people are hungry for information context. I think that is going to be in India for a very long time, because we have a young population, we have aspirants, we have students who aspire to like crack exams, so that's one aspect of it, but also students who are looking to understand, young people who are looking to understand the world around them.
But are they really coming to traditional content? Because, you know, worldwide, and you and me, we have been a part of international media conferences, one in Bonn last year, where report after report indicates that young people, particularly when you look at the age group of 18 to 25, they're consuming their newsfeed from Instagram, from TikTok, where it's available. They're not really visiting the traditional news websites, forget, of course, looking at traditional TV. So how is
I think young people are not
changing?
Turning into TV for sure. That I'm pretty
but
sure.
But not even, I think, I don't think.
But I think they are looking into, at least in our experience at Newslaundry, we have a lot of younger audience, and there is one band of 18 to 24 that will tune into a certain sort of news, and then of course there's 34 to 45 that has more patience for like long form reports or really deep dive understanding. But I think younger people, I don't think it's going to be like this for us like it is in the West, because we are a young country, we're an aspirational young country, we're looking to the world outside, we're looking to understand context. So Indian youth will be interested in news, but who services them? Now, are they going to just say कि चलो महीने में एक बार दुर्गाटी देखेंगे, खत्म, हमारा हो गया, हमको जो समझना है हम समझ लेंगे? Are they going to go into this daily habit, and which newspaper? So surprisingly, actually, a lot of students still tell me that they read Hindu and Indian Express. जागरण भी पढ़ लेंगे, अगर आप हिंदी हार्टलैंड में जाओ,
तो खास करके
भास्कर पढ़ते हैं, जागरण पढ़ लेते हैं, और एक्सप्रेस और हिंदू पढ़ लेते हैं हम जानने के लिए क्या हो रहा है. तो हमें लगता है वो एक मतलब बस हमें फैक्ट्स तो मिल जाते हैं. So I don't think people are going to tune off news completely in India. I do think increasingly they are wanting to tune off television, except when an incident happens. Your first instinct to turn on Aaj Tak or India Today if an earthquake happens will remain, because that is just a trained thing, and also we expect there's still some credibility attached with,
So those guys actually have those resources. I mean, at the end of the day, we are small outfits.
But I think context, after a crash has happened, they will look to a Deshbhakt to explain कि हुआ क्या. They will come to a Newslaundry for a podcast कि अच्छा ये expert आया उसका सुन लेते हैं. So that is where news is completely, television news I think is completely fading out in its relevance. And now it's really funny, but I think anchors think that the way to get that credibility back is to put a podcast mic in front of them. So everyone now, all anchors have a podcast mic. I was like, it's not the podcast mic, it's your content. People are not going to watch you just because you have a mic
I
in
have a
front of
small little DJI mic. I don't have that.
If you want to be
big
taken
mic.
seriously, you need that big
I
podcast
know,
mic.
That's really eating.
Because that is what I think now people just think that's credibility. But no, I'm very hopeful and I'm very optimistic when it comes to the younger generation. I feel like, okay, people 60 and above, you can't change their ways of thinking, you can't change their consumption patterns, but young people are hungry, they're looking for stuff. And especially Hindi audience. There's so much talent out there. You know, when we do a show where we go to colleges during elections to talk about what their issues are, they're so smart and they know so much, younger people. And it's just sad that there's no one servicing that smartness in news. You know, whether it is long form documentaries or stories or reporting or whatever. I think the audience is hungry. It is just a question of how you reach them. And I think जितना जल्दी TV news खत्म हो अच्छा है हमारे लिए. Like we can just completely capture that space.
Okay, now the big question, Manisha Pande. How many hours of TV news do you really consume daily, weekly, and how? Just how do you manage to do it? Please explain.
So I have a team of Newsance always has a team of 3 people. They are young, so they keep moving also because बेचारे उनके एक साल में जाते रहते हैं because उनका दिमाग फ्राई हो जाता है. But they move on to other things, and I've had fabulous people who worked with me. So they watch. It's not just me. I don't need to watch now. You know, I've become so good because
your antennas are like
I know कि कुछ होगा. तो I tell my team कि आज देखो ये show देख लो, ये बोलेगी, ये बोलेगा.
क्या बात है आप तो.
Now I can predict, and which is why
to have you under a people tree wearing a robe.
I can, and which is why I think now like Newsance should evolve into something else. And maybe it's been 8 years we've been doing this show. Maybe we should like do something completely, because now even the audience is कि मैं पता तो ये कहने वाला है. Now you tell us something else, because I think everyone now knows.
So what's the next plan? But you know, give us a sense of how does Newsance really work. And my producer, in fact, Prabhat Tiwari, was very interested to know how do you go about the scripting of it, how tasking is it. Give us some behind the scenes secrets of how Newsance really shapes up.
So like I said, 1 hour we can predict. So हमको पता होता है कि आज देखो आज let me give you an example. Lately जैसे कुछ राहुल गांधी ने पार्लियामेंट में कुछ बोल दिया तो वी नो कि यही पिकअप होगा. आज अर्नब कश को देख लो, आज इंडिया टुडे देख लो, आज ये देख लो, यही बोलने वाले हैं ये लोग. दे आर गोइंग टू पिक अप राहुल स्पीच एंड से कि कितना स्टूपिड है. और देखो अमित शाह की स्पीच क्या धुरंधर स्पीच थी, हिट विकेट कर दिया सबको. तो वी कैन प्रिडिक्ट ऑल ऑफ दिस. How it happens is typically Mondays we meet, we decide on, you know, what's going to be the news for the day. We research through Wednesday, then we write very quickly on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, shoot on Thursday, and it's out on Saturday. Okay. It's a very quick turnaround.
Also because news is changing constantly, so you have to do that.
So we have to be very quick with it, but we're moving pretty fast on it. Like I said, like a lot of the stuff now we know where to look, where to go. And its job has become easier because we can actually predict what's going to happen in the news every evening.
But when you're like consuming so much of hate-filled news on a daily basis, how has it changed you in person, professionally? Have you become more zen-like? Have you become angry? And who's the angry young man or woman here in Newslaundry? I mean, is it Abhinandan? Is it you? Is it Atul? Do you guys have a lot of confrontations?
Atul is very calm, I must say. Abhinandan is an angry old man now. He's 50. So more than anger, Smita, I think you feel very powerless sometimes. You feel, and I imagine like what this volley of propaganda does to viewers. I think it also numbs people. Something like, I think when those whole bulldozer action was happening here in northeast Delhi, and you had anchors climbing on top of bulldozers and saying...
Oh, you did the South Delhi Bhaya accent also in that
Sometimes
episode,
you feel so angry because you're like, dude, you are going at the weakest. And मतलब उसमें यार कोई जूस वाले भैया हैं जिन्होंने अपनी पूरी सेविंग्स करके जूस का उनकी लाइफ चलती होगी उससे यार. And when the Supreme Court, the courts have said you cannot do it, and it's happening, and you're celebrating it like this great action. The ease with which you can call any Muslim Bangladeshi. I mean, how hurtful is that, yaar? Imagine as citizens of a country, for someone to just say, you're not from here, to just like this, just because you're Muslim.
You're a Rohingya, you're a Bangladeshi.
How hurtful is that? So, to me, there's a lot of anger, and then sometimes you really use words that you want to use, and then, like I said, journalistically, you cannot use certain words. Like, you can only go itna. But you really feel like saying these things because it angers you so much. But then you have to take a step back and say, okay, how can I do whatever little bit I can do to counter this? And that's what keeps me going. At least that is what keeps me less angry, sane. That at least I have, in whatever little capacity, I can at least counter it in some ways, and that gives hope to some people. And that keeps me going. But honestly, it makes you very angry. It makes you feel ki yaar, you really want to go into this personal space sometimes, that what is a person's life if they're doing this every night? Like, what kind of a person do you have to be for you to every day come on television and spew hate like this?
I mean, there is already so much of toxic air in Delhi NCR, and then you have so much of toxicity inside. And it's not just an insult to our own citizens, but also remember, it's a constant humiliation of the refugees or the Bangladeshis. It's not doing any favor even to our national security for that matter. So in the typical podcast question that gets asked, Manisha Pande, आपकी ऊर्जा का तो नहीं, लेकिन आपकी patience का राज क्या है?
Patience. Yeah. I think what keeps me going is the fact that people watch, the fact that people appreciate what we do. And like I said, कि हम at least कुछ कर तो पा रहे हैं, कुछ बोल तो पा रहे हैं. कोई तो होना चाहिए जो कुछ बोले कि ये गलत हो रहा है. That's it.
लेकिन बोलने की कीमत भी चुका रहे हो. You guys were raided.
Yeah,
what happened that day?
Survey.
Were you in office?
I was not in office, surprisingly. Abhinandan was. And we were like, I think I was out of town. I was in Punjab on that, the first, I think, survey that happened.
So when did you hear of it?
I got to know on message, and then we were just confused about what have we done, which was, we were wondering kya kar hai. Matlab stories mein se, what it couldn't be critiquing news anchors, because I don't think they exert that much power. So we were looking at, our first instinct was like, what's the reporting that we've done, which is kind of irked the powers that be. But the good thing is that we went to court. The court
did you find out what irked it? What caused it?
No, I mean, we have no, they'll have to tell us for that. but we did, I think within the system, there are also a lot of well-wishers. There are a lot of people who within the system recognize that what is fair and what is unfair. We should also realize that a lot of people crack exams, tough exams, not to go after fake cases. Like, they actually want to crack real crime, real, income tax frauds. And this just takes away from their what they've studied and what they've, what they want to do. So I think even within the system, there is a recognition that this kind of wild goose chase and just going after someone because you don't like this, it's not. Privately, sometimes, I meet, like if I'm out of Delhi, kahin koi vacation mein, Landor mein I had met one officer, from which department I won't tell you, but within the system. And he said, कि हमको पता है बिल्कुल ये तो सब made up है, सब cooked है, or we really like your work. So within the system also, a lot of people appreciate what we do, whether it's the police, whether it's bureaucracy, sometimes even within the governing system, because people recognize when you're being fair. And I think Newslaundry does have that reputation of, even when we're doing stories on reported investigations on ministers who are in power or the governing parties, wherever, there is always an attempt to be correct and fair. And I think that much people recognize.
But is that case still hanging as a sword on your head? How many legal cases do you face on an average a week?
So we have a lot of cases from news channels only.
The love that comes your way.
From within. So defamation or copyright, dono. Copyright is like the new thing, na? वो सबको
वो तो हाँ
कॉपीराइट डालो तो एक तो आई डोंट अंडरस्टैंड इसका लॉजिक अगर हम कॉपीराइट का केस है तो फिर डेफेमेशन नहीं हो सकता ना यू कांट से आप हमको कॉपी भी कर रहे हो और आप हमें डिफेम भी कर रहे हो इफ आई कॉपी यू देन आई एम यूजिंग इट टू because you are great, so that's why I'm copying you. So anyway, but there are cases with news organizations. There's the IT. We had a favorable order from the Delhi High Court on the income tax case. We keep getting some of the other.
There are the big corporates also. And the John Doe cases. Yeah,
the John Doe cases. But I think with corporates, you can fairly insulate yourself if you do the right thing of reaching out.
But have you had to take down a lot of videos because of corporate pressure or?
No, we have never. So we at Newslaundry, we have this thing of never taking down anything unless until we are wrong, then we will always put an apology. That I'm very militant about. Kabhi galti kari to bol do galti kari. Sorry, here's the correct information. We regret the error. So we are very clear about that. Certain videos of ours were struck on YouTube because of copyright. But that also we contested in the court and we won. And I think that's now gone to High Court, if I'm not mistaken, with one of the channels. So those things keep happening. But we have a very good legal team. We have very solid accounts team. Those are two most important things if you want to run a news organization in India. Make sure you have great lawyers and make sure you have great finance
the
team.
Aircraft and the pilot, which is very important.
The finance team has to make sure
system.
that everything is by the book, everything is clear, everything is following, which is often it's this regulation, right? Where people just get stuck with regulation and one little mistake in that gets blown into what happened to the NDTV.
Now you have the DPDP. You also have the Digital Data Protection Act. How worried are you about it as a independent space voice?
Yeah, I think worried in the sense that I think that digital media organizations have to really come together on this, and DigiPub is one platform that does do it. But have your voices heard, because you cannot be regulating something that will directly impact us in every way. And defining news online, I think the task itself is so... You can't define news online. What is news? Any person making a reel right now on Delhi pollution is news. How are you going to say कि ये news है, ये entertainment है, ये it's so mixed on the internet.
Taking consent from those you want to investigate. I mean, that's also a part of it.
Yeah.
Imagine you going to the ministers and to the top A's and the 3A's and asking them कि भैया sign कर दो हमें. We want to do a story on you.
But I hope that we are able to like come together, digital news platforms at least, and really put our word out there and have the minister also listen to our concerns, because it's really a lifeline for us.
क्या Manisha Pande को डर लगता है that the agencies will come knocking at your house at night?
नहीं ऐसा डर तो मुझे नहीं लगता है. एक्चुअली ना ये मुझे बहुत फनी भी लगता है क्योंकि काफ़ी लोग जब मिलते हैं बाहर, आप कितने ब्रेव हो आप, और मुझे कभी कभी लगता है कि इतनी सिंपल सी चीज़ करना आज ब्रेवरी हो गई है. मतलब हाउ लेजी इट इज़ टू बी ब्रेव इन इंडिया टुडे ना. यू जस्ट डू लाइक बेसिक्स एंड पीपल ओह सो ब्रेव. हालांकि ये तो बहुत बेसिक सा चीज़ है ना, टू जस्ट से क्या सही है क्या गलत है. ये तो मोस्ट इसेंशियल थिंग दैट वी हैव लर्नड एज जर्नलिस्ट, टू फैक्ट चेक, टू काउंटर प्रोपेगेंडा, टू काउंटर मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन. How has something so simple become so brave today? It is also like sometimes I think that it's probably the laziest time on earth to like be called brave.
लोगों के jokes जो है ना बड़े surreal हो गए in the journalism community, the ones who are still critical of the government. Questions like, should you actually sleep fully dressed at night? You never know when the knock comes. I met Akash Banerjee the other day and Akash was saying, Deshbhakt was saying ki, half the people come and tell me, you're so brave, how come you're still not behind bars? And I don't know how to react to it. That, कि आखिर मैं क्यों जेल में अभी तक नहीं हूँ.
Isn't that sad? And if you look at Deshbhakt, and I'm a huge fan of Akash Banerjee. Like we do a show together also the year end. But so much of context he's giving you, which you just can't get on the news today.
Yeah.
Right? And what is he doing? He's only citing what is already out there as a fact. So उसको अगर bravery हो गई तो फिर अब क्या ही मतलब. I also feel it's a sad time for me. Like I feel as a journalist, as a professional, if you want to grow, you want to feel that sense of competition, right? Like I want to do better than XYZ, and you feel that this industry together can, you want to feel like you have to do something to be able to outshine others, and that's completely being robbed of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That sense of, and I think when I became a journalist in 2009, I joined Business Standard's newsroom. And there was that sense as a young journalist, I mean, of course, you'd always have editors who would kind of contain your activity. Because when you're young, you're always like, सबको बता देंगे, सबको दिखा देंगे, और ये भी गलत है, वो भी गलत है. So, you always had editors who put into you good sense and said that, okay, you have to have balance and you have to look at all sides and you can't be this, halla bol morcha type all the time. But journalists genuinely in a newsroom felt that together we can change things. And that was such a nice feeling. We didn't get paid much. Like ultimately journalism is not a profession that pays you, right? When you start off, the salaries are pretty sad, and that is also one more reason why we have such less diversity in journalism.
It's not the truth anymore for the diva anchors, man.
But okay, when you join,
हम तो अभी भी rented मकान में रह रहे हैं
what
यार.
kept you going was that sense of power, right? That sense of, not power I would say, but that sense that you could actually change things. Now the current newsroom atmosphere, and especially in legacies, like I feel so sad when I see younger, they almost sometimes feel shy, you know, of coming to you and saying they're journalists in XYZ organization. They actually feel like, हम तो क्या ही कर रहे हैं journalism.
Who's the one editor, anchor, Manisha, you want to really give like one whack to, like one thappad if you could?
No violence, please. No violence.
कोई तो होता होगा ना मन से जो तुम
नहीं थप्पड़ तो मैं किसी को नहीं मारूंगी, but can you imagine someone doing a show कि खाने में थूक रहे हैं ये, you know, कैसे थूक रहे, and you're doing a whole show. What mindset do you have to come from to?
How are the owners and proprietors allowing it is also, I think, you know, the big question.
सबसे बड़ा है तो उन पे ही है. And
yeah.
In fact, I had done an interview with Rajdeep earlier this year, and I was asking him this, that haven't the owners willfully given away so much of their own power? News owners were never this weak. I mean, I think in the topmost powerful or whatever, Vineet Jain would feature somewhere, Arun Puri would feature somewhere. They were never this powerless, you know. Governments would worry about what an organization, what would be on Times of India's front page. They would worry about what channel would pick up what news. You know, you could actually feel that news could have a real impact on outcomes. Like I was just saying yesterday, Jessica Lal case. That really kind of got, to think of it, what? It was a crime story in Delhi, but it got the nation upset, no? Why? Because anchors day in and day out told you that, you know, this is not what should be happening in the capital of the city, and asked for justice. And owners and media organizations wielded so much power, and today I just fails me that why these owners want to willfully give away so much of their own power, their own respect among their own audience.
So that was also an activism and a media trial of a kind, no?
The Jessica Lal case. I don't think it was media trial, but I think it was definitely activism. It was like bordering on that activism. But to call for a case to be reopened, for everyone to say that no one saw the gunshot. I love that headline, no one killed Jessica, which was TOI headline, and later made a movie also. But to call that out was important, and I think that was important. That campaign around it was a very important. Something that I think today we should have seen around pollution in New Delhi. Everyone's breathing the air. No matter who you support, which government you support, it is impacting your children, it's impacting the elderly in your home, it's impacting you. We don't know in the next 10 years what will happen to
I think that kind of critical you know, behavior that should be inherent in a society and a democracy, that has kind of numbed. But Manisha, just the final questions, I mean, which brings me to this, mere khach par azad hai khabrein.
Yes.
And you know, I pay to keep news free.
और
What's the future of
करारे चने?
करारे चने?
Newsance fans will know this. This is like
मैं तो आती हूँ शो पे, मुझे तो कभी नहीं खिलाया
करारे चने. This is a joke on an anchor who sells news like करारे चने.
अच्छा,
you all know who it is.
वो तो मैं काफी खाती रहती हूँ. But what's the future? I mean, for
news.
Wait,
I have to show this also. This is Dankapati.
Dankapati.
You know who Dankapati is?
Yeah. वो तो अतुल हैं हमारे दोस्त, उनको हम सुनते रहते हैं. But really, do you look at more collaborations happening also for news platforms? You know, there are individual journalists / YouTubers today. There are organizations that are doing satire beyond just the realm of news, but there are a couple of news outlets that are trying to still operate as news in the independent space. You know, whether it's a News Minute, which has collaborated with you guys, whether it's the Red Mic, who are finding it very difficult, increasingly to sustain themselves. How do you sustain themselves? Matlab, how do you crack this code of how do you keep the revenues coming? Because YouTube mein to bhai sahab, kuch dal do, election commission, some political critique, the algorithms go down, they put you on a $yellow
guys
review.
Face that?
Yeah. Mera to is a chota station.
I also see
growing.
like, we don't take ads on YouTube, but I see like strange dips sometimes, which are not explainable. So I wonder like why, like suddenly there's a dip in viewership, suddenly there's an uptick. So it's a very complicated thing to understand. But so look, at Newslaundry, we've been very lucky. From the time we launched in 2012, we had a very simple but radical idea that people should pay for news. And it has really paid off for us. I'm happy to say that not only are people paying for Newslaundry, but we're also sustainable. We're a sustainable, probably the only digital news organization. We are the only digital news organization that is sustainable without taking any advertisements
You're not hand to
anyone.
mouth and you're comfortable.
Yeah, and we're not taking any advertisements from anyone, even including YouTube. We've just partnered with the News Minute, where we have a joint collaboration. We have joint subscriptions that people can access both our websites. I think that is the way to go ahead. For us, it's easier because we're a smaller newsroom. I get that bigger newsrooms cannot solely depend on subscriptions, but more and more you need to be able to convince your audience. And again, it's also an advocacy space that Newslaundry caught on to very early. Not only did we give the news, content as some would say, satire, critique, actual ground reports, investigations, but we also told people that, hey, look, we can only do this if you pay. And your investment into news has to be there if you want it to serve your interests. So we've been very clear with that, and because of the amount of effort we put in that advocacy, it's really shown results for us. I do think going ahead for digital news organizations, at least there should be more and more collaborations. That old legacy media habit na कि किसी ने exclusive करी तो मैं नहीं बोलूँगा किसने. A big newspaper did this is stupid. You cannot gatekeep information on the internet anymore. If you've done a great video and I tell my audience, hey, go to Smita's YouTube show and watch this video, I should not feel insecure कि मेरे views वहाँ चले गए. It only builds a community where people look up to you for being well informed, for suggesting good stuff, and I think it's just a nicer space for collaborations. Because anyway, I cannot gatekeep anyone from watching anything on the internet. I can't say कि audience सारा मेरे पास ही जाए, उसके पास ना जाए, इसके पास ना जाए, मैं ही करूँगी. So all organizations should think for their own survival, should think of different ways in which you can collaborate with everyone where interests collide. Sometimes you also know editors are difficult personalities that everyone can't get along. So there are those challenges also. Like everyone says ना कि ये left कबाल है. लेफ्ट में ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कि हम सब मिलके अग्री करते हैं. न्यूज़ लॉन्ड्री में ही हमारे कितने डिसएग्रीमेंट्स होते हैं किसी भी एक इशू को लेके, राइट. वायर के एडिटर, स्क्रोल के एडिटर, न्यूज़ मिनट, न्यूज़ लॉन्ड्री के एडिटर, हम सब डिफरेंट सोचते हैं. एक स्टोरी वो कैरी करेंगे, मैं शायद नहीं करूंगी, मैं कुछ करूंगी, वो शायद नहीं करेंगे.
I don't agree with a whole lot of stories that Caravan does. I almost feel like they're doing a hit job on a lot of stories, though we are all a part of the left cabal. So I think there is left, there's extreme left, there's mild left, there's all of that.
And like I said, everyone's going to have different views on stories, so that's fine. But wherever we can collaborate on investigations, because we're smaller newsrooms, where we can collaborate on expertise, like we love to have you over every time we're talking about foreign policy. And in that, if half of Newslaundry discovers you, wants to go to you, pay for you, good. I mean, I think we should all kind of understand that our survival will be easier if we actually operate as a force together, rather than do the same old traditional TV news जिसकी वजह से मर गए हैं वो लोग कि exclusive हमारा है, हम best हैं, हम number 1 हैं, नहीं हमने करा पहले. No one cares.
When I was leaving TV news, I had this very strong feeling that somewhere in Film City in Noida in the days to come, every journalist would be standing there with a radio at the end of the day and saying, मेरे पास ये news है, ये ले लो, and there would be an auction of the highest bidder for the story. But finally, coming to AI, ChatGPT, all this chat that AI will take jobs, AI will eat the desk jobs, not the reporting jobs, because there's still empathy factor to it. Has that happened in the industry? Do you see that happening?
I think it's going to happen, and I think it's going to happen. I'm stunned by how good AI can be. Honestly,
ChatGPT is doing astrological predictions also, I am told, very well.
That I don't know, but news point of view, I think editing, yes, a lot of the desk will lose its job. I'm being very honest, because it's very competent, it's very good, and newsrooms ultimately will want to save on money, and it just. But I think there are a couple of things. So instead of being bleak about it, there are two things that you should do. One is upskill yourself, learn how to use AI. So don't treat it as it's like the same thing that people were like when I joined Business Standard in 2009, web में सबसे हमको लगता था web में ना जाएं. Like most useless लोग web department में होते हैं, हम तो newspaper. But that changed in 10 years. So you have to understand the technology will come and you have to learn it rather than being antagonistic towards this. So learn how to use these tools to enhance your own work. If you're using it, then you know that you have 3 more hours in the day to do something that an AI can't do. And yes, going on the ground is something AI cannot do. Having a perspective on news is something AI cannot do. Your years of reporting on foreign policy gives you a perspective that ChatGPT cannot give you.
I'm not even sure anymore. People are writing entire policy papers thanks to Perplexity and ChatGPT.
They're very unreadable. Some of them पता चल जाता है. I get so many of these young people sending me articles and मुझे पता है ChatGPT में. So young लोगों तो actually नहीं use करने, it's dangerous. I think mid-level, yes. Once you've skilled yourself into understanding what your job is, and then you should use it to have more time for your own self to upskill and to innovate with your medium. So if 3 hours of my life I was spending just checking typos, editing something, making a copy sound better, AI could do that with well done prompts, and I could use that 3 hours in innovating on my show.
What's the wildest thing you may have Googled or asked ChatGPT to help you out with?
It's a very, very weird story. You want to listen to it? It's a long story.
Briefly, yeah.
So I recently moved. It also says something about the Delhi air and the kind of place that we're living. I recently moved to a place where there's this very famous Kushak Nala of Delhi, which is flowing through all of Delhi and it goes into Yamuna. It's an open sewage now. It was an storm water drain like it was supposed to be, and Delhi has a lot of storm water drains that are today open sewage. So वहाँ से ना बहुत smell आती है, खुशबू नाले की. आप खूब अच्छे पैसे दो, posh colonies में रहो, लेकिन शाम को आपको आएगी इतर सड़े अंडे की खुशबू. सो हमारे घर पे ना एक फड पेंटिंग थी, राजस्थानी पेंटिंग होती है, और उसमें इट्स अ राजस्थानी पेंटिंग, और आई विल गिव यू द पिक्चर आल्सो. उसका ना सारे पेंटिंग में जो फेसेस थे बिकेम ग्रे. All were grey. And then I told my husband that, yaar, it's just very weird. Do you think somebody's come and deliberately done this? कोई मुझे तंग करने के लिए तो ये नहीं कर रहा. तो
you don't think somebody was, it could be something like haunting or some psycho broke in and tried to do. So we just really tried to find out, and then we asked ChatGPT what could this be. We were also by that time very upset with the Nala smell, because we were like, dude, what the hell is this? And then I sent the picture to ChatGPT and said, what do you think it is? And ChatGPT actually said that actually hydrogen sulfide can react with certain chemicals in the painting, because of which it can completely corrode. And it's only the face that uses that chemical mix. So the entire painting got destroyed. So that was, I think, a strange thing that I asked. Oh, wow. I talk about
we could just not fathom कि ये किसने किया है. हमें लगा कोई तो break in कर रहा है, या कोई हमें सबक सिखाने की कोशिश कर रहा है, या कोई nuisance से नाखुश होके मेरी paintings destroy कर रहा है. But none of that. It was just नाले की smell and the hydrogen sulfide, which we all are happily breathing and living in these colonies.
So when do we see the new avatar of Newsance? And what avatar is it going to be? Any sneak peek?
So we are right now in contemplating stage. Maybe in the next 3 months we'll figure out what we want to do. I increasingly feel that I need to now also get into that space of giving more of news and less of nuisance. So maybe there will be a show that we alternate with Newsance, or maybe it becomes a bigger part of Newsance where we give you the news accurately in the fun way that we are known for, but also more of that rather than what TV is doing. Because honestly, like I said, like I can predict what they're going to do. I think even our audience today knows कि यार इनसे तो यही expected है.
Can you predict what's going to be the big story that 2026 will kick off with?
Big story that last year, you know what it was? It was that bomb.
Which bomb?
It was last year only, na, where those students went to the parliament and hurled.
Oh yeah.
And then
that
remember these reporters were jhagdoing with the दे दीजिए मुझे दे दीजिए, and then they were like kind of
it was sad.
They were chinoing it. It was last year only, ना? छीन रहे थे एक दूसरे से वो bomb का कोई part.
It was last year. Man, my memory is fading now.
I think it was
start of last year.
Wasn't it last year?
Yeah. Okay, I'll have to check that.
I think it was last year December. It must have been a year since those
2024 December or Jan 25.
What happened to them? I wonder.
Yeah. So next year, what do you see?
So next year, see, it's all going to be कि देखो बंगाल में आतंकवाद आ गया है, इलेक्शन आ रहे हैं ना, तो आपको जनवरी से पता चलेगा कि देखो कितने सारे बांग्लादेशी क्रॉस करके वहाँ आ गए हैं, कितना आतंकी ये स्टेट है, कितना कुछ गलत. सारी प्रॉब्लम्स जो बाकी स्टेट्स में हैं, रोड्स की, ब्रिजेस की, गंदगी की, जो भी है, जो वहाँ भी हैं, बट इट विल बी टोल्ड यू कि कितना क्रम्बलिंग है देखो. So I think that will be one big story. I feel like in the coming 1 year, this Bangladeshi thing is really going to be amped up.
You also have Bengal, you also have Assam.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Bengal, Assam, both elections. So the narrative that hordes of Bangladeshis are coming here and altering our elections is going to be very strong.
The Machli loving Bengalis.
Yeah.
Have to be prepared. Anyways, this was fun. Manisha, are you going to sing something for us?
Sing? I'm not known to be a good singer.
Your voice sounds very nice. I just thought
very
maybe
melodic.
You could sing something.
No, I won't.
You want to sing something and say goodbye to 2025 for our viewers?
Bye 2025. Thank God you're over. Not singing it, but I'm really glad this year is over. It was just hectic, I think. One thing after the other. And I think April was, when was Pahalgam? April.
Yeah.
We had Pahalgam. And then just, we had the Delhi blast. So it was actually a very intense year for us.
Pahalgam, Ops Sindoor, there's been the Air India crash, there's been the Delhi blast.
It's been the year of really bad news, no? Death.
And I mean, we are smoking
On top of that, yeah, we're ending the year
unlimited
with
packs of cigarettes even for
Yeah.
those of us who are non-smokers. लेकिन हाँ, सवाल कोई PM से मत करना, कोई होम मिनिस्टर से मत करना. सारे सवाल जो हैं सारे उन्हीं कैरेक्टर से करना who don't have either
नहीं,
any
अब हो
power to
गया ना,
demonstrate.
अब हो गया सिस्टम.
System
ऐसा है
पे सवाल.
क्यों? और one more thing, bureaucrats. Increasingly you will see more and more anchor because देखो चीजें तो आसपास गिर रही हैं, you can't ignore it also. लेकिन अगर कुछ खराब हो रहा है तो anchors are like ये we don't have bureaucrats anymore who can, you know, they are not visionary. So bureaucracy is on the target now, so you better be worried, all you bureaucrats
Alliance party
sitting here.
ministers और some low-key chief ministers को तो फिर भी target कर
And like
लेंगे.
bureaucracy, why is it so bad? These babus, this red tape, it's just
You
their
think
fault.
Prime Minister Modi will finally address a press conference in 2026?
Never.
Okay, that's
Don't
it, guys.
dream.
I think we have created enough controversies through this conversation, but always fun.
Always
And
fun to chat.
Thank you so
with you.
much. You have a great year ahead.
You too.
And
Look
all of you
forward to
people-
seeing all your work. Please subscribe, support Smita's YouTube channel and watch it.
Thank you so much. And all of you Newsance lovers, please show some love to us also. But it's bulk of love and hugs to the team and to all those journalists who are still doing an honest day's job of speaking truth to power, of asking questions to those in positions of leadership and authority. And the least we can do is subscribe, like, share news, and pay to keep news free. Thank you so much.
Free, guys.
So with video journalist Meharban, I'm signing off. But stay tuned for more such wonderful conversations in the POV podcast. Thanks, goodbye, and take care.